We would like to hear a bit more about what kind of experience you have had while doing research in SibA, also under the aspect which challenges did you meet? Shall I choose one or two?
Well, I must say that the most important thing for me when starting my research and continuing it was the supervising. And I've been lucky to have great and supportive supervisors. And I must thank now Margit Rahkonen for kind of finding my way and my topic, and then Taina Riikonen, who is not here today, but I think for me the most important thing has been great supervisors and the support from them, actually.
If I should name one thing, I think for me that would be research community that this institution has provided since my doctoral studies all the way to these days when I'm working here as a professional researcher. I know it kind of sounds lame, but it's true that together we can do more. And I feel like, well, I know I wouldn't be here if I would have been alone. And I feel like I've been involved and am involved in things that way surpass my expertise, but because we have been doing these things together, I've gone further. And I love the way we can draw the best out of each other, but also develop our individual skills. I think that challenge, if I should mention one, is I share this probably with every single researcher in this country's funding. So I've been very blessed. I've had funding for my research, but it has mostly been outside, kind of external funding, and for short periods ranging from 6 months or 3 months to 12 months. At the moment, because I'm working for the Arts Equal and Global Visions project, I have a longer contract, which feels luxurious, but also there's this constant pressure that you have to focus in your research and conducting that, as Tuire mentioned this, but also plan ahead and sell yourself all the time. Please, could I continue my work? So that is a challenge. You learn to live with that, you learn to tolerate that, but it certainly takes its toll.
Well, the constant pressure sounds very familiar, I have to say. I think that the community is very important. Funding is, of course, I hear all the time stories about how difficult it is, and I have also experienced that myself. During my research project, I had a funding which was external, so it was from Kone Foundation, which was very helpful for me. As a supervisor, I find that the most challenging areas are to develop methodologies and to deal with the publishing, which is also, it's kind of a constant pressure to show convincing methodologies to publishing kind of research publications, which of course require a lot of data and convincing methodologies and approaches, and we are still working on that. So this is maybe the most difficult thing also.
Thank you. I just want to say that in our department we focus very much on the artistic side of our domain. We also do research, but first comes very much the artistic side, and I think I'm very lucky to be in a very nice environment and group of people with extremely high level skills in what comes of the jazz field. Who support very much each other, and they have great ideas of how to develop my own work. But then, as also Heidi said, to mention a challenge, it's one thing, I would make an analogy to what Tuire said. As a foreign student, and I suppose I'm not the only one who had these challenges, little by little, or at least in the beginning, the studies, unfortunately, at some point become a serious hobby because of the fact that we are immigrants in the end in Finland, the fact that we have to integrate in the society, and we challenge and we face very, very basic problems like how to integrate in the society, learn the language, find out what Kela taxes, and these kind of very, very basic things.
I suppose I'm one of the privileged ones because I have been here for a long time and I have worked as a senior assistant, or however you want to translate yliassistentti into Finnish, I don't know, into English, sorry. But I would like to mention one thing. I suppose that to meet the correct peoples correct persons in the right moments, is very important, because that is something that can start just something new. And for example, I could take part in a congress for neurologists in, I suppose it was in Bologna, I'm not quite sure about where it was, but somewhere in Italy. And there I actually met the person who leads the medical gene project where I am involved now. And I think that this was something that we just sat together on a table and started to talk. And we immediately found that we have joint interests and that we could really... I know something that she doesn't know, and she knows very much what I do not. And so we could work together and try to find something that we could do together. And that is very important, and how to support that, because it's something that just happens. But it's important that we all go to congresses, and we also go to some congresses that are not just on our field. For example, I'm not a neurologist. You can be sure about that.
Yes, not long ago I was also a doctoral student, so I still remember very well the challenges and the good points. And I would say that in our department the fantastic point fantastic has been freedom, research freedom, artistic freedom, and all kinds of freedom, which is also the challenge. Actually, so the same thing is a challenge, and I think now as a professor, my idea of how to make things even better is to not to restrict or lessen the freedom, but to create more like a certain framework of how the students could position themselves in the world, and how to help them to find discussion partners, as you said, which is very important, how to grasp the idea of the whole research, what it is, and how can I, as an artist, engage in this activity, and what does it mean. And actually it's not mystical space science, but it's very practical, concrete work. But this is often a concept for artists that seems like over there somewhere. And we don't realize that it's actually very concrete steps that you start taking, and it's not so mystical at all. So freedom versus rules and guidelines, I think, is a good balance. Also, I think in Sibelius Academy in general, I think we have as a challenge we have the division to do 2 different doctoral schools, because I feel that we have such a fantastic pool of knowledge in this house, but we don't meet each other often enough. So Mutri people don't see Dokmus people in the corridors spontaneously. So and also us teachers, we should engage more in meeting each other and discussing about things, because I learn everything every day, new things, and it's a very nice job, I think. But I think this is our it's a strength also. We have versatile knowledge and versatile approaches, which is good because it creates discussion. But also we have to really cross this border, which really doesn't exist. But as somebody said in the beginning, when we create these boxes, it kind of you said something like that.
No, I said that usually when we don't know about each other enough, we think that we and the others are very different, and we perhaps are even afraid of the others. But when we learn to know each other and we learn to know how we think and what we do and so on, so the boundaries fall. And so there are no others anymore. And I hope that this will be going on all the time between Mutri and Dokmus, so that there will not be any boundaries. And we are we, the researchers and students and teachers and professors of the Sibelius Academy, not of Mutri and Dokmus.
Yes, I think it's very important. I think it's very human to react to these kind of titles and boxes and boundaries where you define different departments or different units. You react so that, okay, this is something else and this is us, just as you said. So I think we have to overrule this concept in our heads and start thinking of the bigger pictures. I don't think that, well, you all know that in today's society it's all about talk of cutting and saving, and many times it seems that the politicians and big bosses, they think that when you combine things into bigger units you save something. I don't think so. I think it's the opposite. But we don't need to look at the organizational borders, but look at the content and look at the people.
Yes, thank you all very much. That is already said about the research community. Would you have some more to tell about possible collaborations or how you identify yourself inside this research community?
Oh, okay, there. All right. Well, in my experience, there has been great collaboration with, for example, Tuire Academy. I have been in this your opinnot, what's that called in English? Well, yeah, flexible studies at Tuire Academy, and seen what the people are doing there, and it has been really amazing in many levels, because at first it's just something that they are doing something that you don't understand a thing what they are doing, but then you are kind of finding your way there as a performer or as a musician, and start to know more and kind of evolve and I don't know if I have the feeling that I really belong there, but something like critical happens there, and lots of thoughts are being raised. And also I've been to this SibA Academy of Artistic Research in Hanasaari, where there were lots of people from the theatre and dance and other fields than music. I think it's really important to see the whole field of artistic research, because I think music is kind of it often feels like it's left kind of outside the whole circle, and I think there are possibilities for us musicians to be really in there, but it will take time.
Well,
what makes a group of people a community? I think one of the things is that they have a shared interest or goal. They are trying to do something together. And I think this is important in terms of research communities, not just a random selection of people who are conducting a study, but it actually takes time, it takes effort, it can be painful to form a community. It can be painful to be in a community. I mean, it is wonderful, but it can be also painful, as I'm sure we all know it. And I think that's the beauty of a community. There has to be diversity, there has to be constant negotiation going on. What are we doing? Who are we? What is our goal? How do we get there? What is the vision? What is the strategy? And there needs to be room for arguments and criticism, but also room for trust to be developed between people. And I think this is something that I feel like I've experienced here. It can mean, on a very practical level, it can mean that we write together, we write articles or conference presentations or book chapters, or it can mean quite informal discussions, thinking about ideas, going for coffee or a glass of wine and just, hear ourselves talking to someone else, get feedback, or to support each other with these challenges that we've mentioned. But I think there has to be some sort of vision of what we are doing, where are we going, who do we want to be as a research community. And so this is what it means to me.
Anyone who wants to say it is not obligatory to comment?
I can comment just a small. Sorry.
Yes, please.
Just a small comment or short comment, so that the interdisciplinary nature of our artistic research or artistic doctoral studies implies also the art projects, but also the research projects as well. So both kind of require collaboration with different arts.
So I have I have been working with cognitive brain research unit, and as I said, with the medical gene group. And I have noticed that it's very important that we can explain easily enough of the what we think and how we think and what the concepts are and what we are doing and what we are trying to do, so that the others can understand, because the language is very different. And of course, when we have worked with these things for tens of years, they are very clear for us, but it's not at all easy for example, a brain researcher to understand something like pitch class theoretical concepts and so on. So I have seen that it's very important. For example, I once made kind of research design and tried to explain what I have been doing, and I decided that, well, it's so difficult to explain that in words that I will just play them, those items I have made, those musical items, and so it's easier for them to understand what is the question in the design. And then I played them, and I took the easiest one, in my opinion, and I played them to the gene researchers, and immediately when I had played that, I understood that they didn't get the idea. It was quite clear that they didn't hear the difference, which was extremely clear for me. In my opinion, the one that was different of the five was just everybody could hear that. And I immediately noticed that they didn't understand that at all. And so it's very important that if you want to collaborate with other disciplines, you have to be able to explain the idea very clearly.
Thank you. This leads very nicely to our next question, which would be, how do you identify yourself as a researcher within the SibA and the Uni Arts, but especially under the aspect of your own musicianship in this double role of musician and researcher?
I have been following your questions on the paper there, and I'm waiting for one to say, well, actually, this is connected very much with how do we identify within SibA, but also a bit in our domain outside. And I wanted to say that together with my senior colleague Jenny Robson, we organized a nice conference in the fall called International Jazz Voice Conference, for which we had the support of Mutri, and Elina Laakso supported us with that, and of the jazz department, Professor Jukki Suotila, and the head of the department, Jussi Kanaste, supported us with funding and also organizing parts. But my point is that in that conference we managed to have people from 15 countries, and to see where we position us in the jazz, in the vocal jazz field, and what kind of research has been done. And because in the jazz field there hasn't been so much research done yet, and it was very nice to find out about things internationally, and also from Finland, from other universities, from other schools, because there are not, other schools, and also we had people from inside SibA, and it was very nice to see that we have very interesting things going on in our department, also compared to the other people.
Yeah, or personally about your own role?
Yeah, I must say that it has been quite hard, actually, especially in the beginning of the studies, because it was somehow the role was mainly a musician's role, and then you had to kind of create your own role of being a researcher. At least for me, it was like that. But then, actually, it was kind of this development of your own, I don't know, process, or a process as a researcher, and finding your own ways to do it. So actually, you have to just accept that you are in between of methods and, institutions and stuff like that, and then just keep it together and trust yourself, I think. I don't know what's the result, but still, that's the most important. But it has been really, really difficult because the role is somewhere in between, at least for me.
Of course, it sounds familiar what you said. Okay, it takes double time, so it's really demanding, I have to say. And as a teacher, I have to choose that if I choose to teach harpsichord playing or bassa continuo playing, it's not so far from researching, but there are several areas which are very similar, but then there are areas which I have to avoid certain vocabulary, for instance, not to scare anybody by talking about too philosophical things. But I don't know, maybe early musicians might feel a little bit easier with this. I'm not sure, but I feel that even the master's thesis, the ones who are doing their master's thesis, they kind of naturally kind of adopt or develop themselves to that sort of direction. I don't say that it's easy, but they don't have this kind of identity crisis, like, oh my god, am I losing my musicianship now, or something like that.
Any comments? Or I would like to come back on one point that you, Elena, already started talking about, which is a very important point. How do you see yourself within SibA, but also in the international research context, and what are your thoughts and ideas about internationalization of your research project, or research of SibA in general?
Just writing, I didn't understand the question. You have to repeat.
I just wanted to point out one more thing about that, and it's also about internationalization. Communication is extremely important, and that's important to have tools of how to know about each other in other countries. At least in our domain, sometimes it's hard to know because maybe we have journals, but people are not that active of publishing. So it's hard to stay in touch and find out about where is your position internationally, to find out what's happening around. So communication is a key to see yourself internationally.
I would say that all study I have been doing is international. So even though it's done here, all my closest colleagues are all around the world, and I have to cooperate and discuss with them. And usually, for example, on the medical gene project, we have been publishing in international journals, and physical cell theory, I've been always writing in international journals. And sometimes I really have to say to myself that actually you have to write in Finnish at some points, and you really have to be able to tell about what you're doing, also for the closer or the colleagues here and to the larger audience. And that's why we, for example, organized a small, can you say, symposium on musical ability and genes and acoustics in the Camerata Hall last June, and we really made it popular. And it's a very important part, which is some kind of the other side of the internationalized ideas, or international ideas, that we have to do it also for our own people and our colleagues and the larger audience.
Yeah, I guess I share this feeling with you, Tuire, that I've always considered myself as an international researcher. I haven't really understood this division between, or why should we choose whether we want to have a societal impact in Finland or internationally? Why can't we do the both? Of course we can, and our working language is English, and as you said, many of my closest colleagues that I'm working on a daily basis are from other countries, and I think that is it has only positive beneficial impact in our work here. It's funny when you go abroad. I've been living in London for several years, and then going to international conferences. Those are the places when I feel most Finnish, and kind of all of a sudden I feel like, yes, I'm from Sibelius Academy. and you also, I think partly it's because people, Sibelius Academy has a great reputation, and people see you as a representative of this institution, and all of a sudden you start to realize that, yes, I'm part of that. But you don't really, I don't really think about it in terms of the institution that much. I don't know if I should say this in the panel, but I think that the field is much wider and even more exciting than this institution. And I don't think that as a nation we can afford to only think about us and our borders, but we have to reach out and be inclusive, and that's a joy. That's what makes this work so wonderful, I think.
Thank you.
Yes, internationalization, it is, of course, it is like we all think it is there, and we are, and we should be, but in practice, actually, I think we have a little bit same situation in jazz and in folk music, that there's not so much basic research yet done, and we are the pioneers. And so that means that, and also if you are researching Finnish folk music, there are certain concepts that are not so easy to translate. And we actually have to define the concepts first in Finnish language, because the language is so much connected to the subject. If you think about, for instance, folk song and the texts, folk song texts, so they are essentially Finnish language stuff, and you can't just translate the whole concept so easily. So it is a challenge also, I think. In music education, probably much easier. You find the field, it is there already, but our field, it's not there. Artistic research in folk music is a very, very new thing, and Sibelius Academy is very, very pioneering institution in that field altogether. And folk music is a very marginal area in all that, so I think we are facing these kind of challenges. What portion of our work should we continue to have in Finnish language because of these issues, and how much can we translate ourselves into English, and how much working language can we afford to have in English, because it's costing us something. I feel I have to push students to use English. I feel that is a necessity in this world. We have to be international, but at the same time it is costing definition, it is costing the details, it is costing us some of the flavor and nuances of the research, and we have to balance in this work, and all the international students that we have, they know this in a very hard way, I think, because we are trying to cope with both languages at the same time, and being a small unit, it's a little bit difficult. But I do think that we can't escape that we are global, and we have to be able to explain our central issues to other people in the world. So.
Thank you. Any comments from the panel members? Yeah.
I have just one example of being like international in a light way. So we organized, just me and my friend from Norway, we organized this kind of a mini conference using actually SibA's money, the apurahat scholarships money for that, and then we went with Jenni Lättilä there, and we performed something, and they performed something, and we discussed like research areas, and it was such a joy and pleasure. So it can be kind of this. It's not always like really big or well organized, and you just go and be interested in what the others are doing, I think.
Well, I would like to add that the DRB, the Doctors in Performance conferences, have been very important, and all sorts of kind of international conferences and collaborations. And early music is, in that sense, quite international already, so it's easier, but not without difficulties anyway.
Thank you. I would like to turn to the audience. If you have any questions or comments to our panel members on this discussion or on experiences of doing research in the SibA in general.